Have you ever had that happen? A song just comes on and boom, you're instantly back somewhere else. Or maybe music helps with an ache you can't quite place.
Oh, absolutely. Or that feeling when a melody just brings a tear to your eye, seemingly out of nowhere.
Exactly. Those moments, those deep, almost weird connections we have with music.
That's precisely what Dr. Oliver Sacks digs into in his fantastic book, Musicophilia, Tales of Music and the Brain. It's really this incredible exploration of what makes us human, all through the lens of music.
And that's what we're doing today. We're jumping into Musicophilia, unpacking Sax's stories. They're fascinating, sometimes really bizarre, but always deeply human.
Yeah.
Our mission really is to pull out the key insights, the big ideas, to show you why this book is more than just case studies. It's essential reading if you're curious about, us, humans, and our brains and music.
Sacks really does shine a light on that relationship. And as we go through it, you start seeing these core themes pop up again and again. There are about 5 big takeaways.
Okay, like what?
Well, first, how music can physically change the brain. Sometimes it's triggered by, like, accidents or illness, or maybe it's just how we're wired.
Right. And then there's the flip side, how things like neurological conditions can actually show us how tied music is to memory, movement, even our sense of self.
Even when other things start to fade.
Yeah, it's often the last thing to go, isn't it?
No, often is.
Huh.
Third, Musicophilia makes it super clear that everyone has their own unique musicality. It's a spectrum.
From prodigies to people who are, clinically tone deaf, a music.
Exactly. It shows music is universal, but also really personal.
Yeah.
It's not just about raw talent.
Okay, and number 4.
Music therapy. Sacks shows how it genuinely unlocks healing. It helps with conditions like Parkinson's, dementia, even speech problems. The therapeutic power is immense.
Right, powerful stuff.
And finally, maybe the biggest one for me, is that Sacks basically argues our brains are inherently musical. They're not just waiting for sound.
They're making it.
Yeah. They're busy creating soundscapes, even when it's silent or in hallucinations or dreams. Our brains do music.
Wow. Okay, so with that framework, let's dive in. Where do we start?
Well, Sacks kicks off with this section he calls Haunted by Music.
Okay. Sounds intriguing.
It is. It's all about how music can sort of invade the brain or be produced involuntarily, sometimes in really unexpected ways.
Like how?
Well, the first chapter just grabs you. It's called A Bolt from the Blue, Sudden Musicophilia.
Sudden musicophilia.
Yeah. Cases where some sudden event, often pretty traumatic, flips a switch and turns someone into a massive music fan, almost overnight.
You're kidding. Like, what kind of event?
The classic example he gives is Tony Sikoria. He was a surgeon, not particularly musical.
Okay.
And then he gets struck by lightning.
Struck by lightning? Seriously?
Seriously. And afterwards, he develops this sudden, intense, almost obsessive love for piano, for classical music. Starts composing even. Never played before.
That is wild. Neurologically, what's going on there? How does lightning do that?
Well, Sacks suggests it's about brain plasticity, right?
Mm.
Maybe the jolt, the trauma, somehow activated dormant neural pathways, circuits related to music that were just kind of sitting there.
Like flipping a switch, you said.
Exactly.
Hmm.
That makes you wonder, how much of our potential passions are just waiting for some kind of trigger. Maybe not lightning, hopefully.
Yeah, hopefully not.
But it raises this interesting thought for listeners, maybe. If something that random can awaken music, could you give yourself a sort of intentional jolt?
How do you mean?
Like deliberately pushing into totally new music genres you'd normally dismiss? Or finally picking up that instrument you've put off for years? It could be like a little controlled neural awakening.
Interesting way to think about it. Okay, so that's sudden musicophilia. What else is in this haunted by music section?
Well, building on that involuntary theme, Sacks talks about musical seizures.
So it's seizures that involve music.
Yeah, but not necessarily triggered by music. It's more that the music emerges during the seizure from inside the brain.
Wow. What kind of music?
Sacks describes patients who, during epileptic seizures, vividly hear specific tunes. Sometimes old folk songs, hymns, things they might not have consciously thought about in decades.
So the brain is just playing music to itself during a seizure.
Essentially, yes. Sacks suggests it shows the brain's power to generate complex musical patterns all on its own, often pulling from deep memory stores, maybe in the subcortical areas linked to emotion. It shows how embedded these musical templates are.
It's quite humbling, isn't it, that something so personal like music can become this internal, uninvited thing.
Absolutely, and maybe there's a little prompt there for us, too. Try keeping a sort of musical diary.
A musical diary.
Yeah, just notice when certain songs, or even just little bits of melody, trigger strong feelings or specific memories. You might start mapping out your own unique brain music connections. Could be really useful if you're an artist, exploring emotional triggers.
That makes sense. Okay, so music can come from seizures. What about the other way around?
Ah, yes. That's the flip side, and it's just as fascinating. Sachs calls it musicogenic epilepsy.
Meaning music actually causes the seizures.
Exactly. Specific melodies, specific pieces of music can act as the trigger.
That sounds terrifying.
It really does. Sachs tells this powerful story about a woman who would have seizures if she heard certain pieces.
Hmm.
Rachmaninoff was one, I think, even the national anthem for her.
So music we might find beautiful or moving could literally be dangerous for someone else.
Precisely. Sachs uses this to highlight how subjective, how neurologically individual perception really is. What's harmony to one brain might be disruptive chaos to another due to specific neural wiring.
It really underscores that perception isn't universal at all.
Not at all. And Sachs does mention potential therapies, like using music therapy, almost like exposure therapy, to gradually desensitize those triggers in a controlled way.
Hmm.
But more broadly, it's a reminder, isn't it, to be aware of our own sensitivities, musical or otherwise, and understand they often have a real neurological basis.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so where does Sachs wrap up this first part?
He finishes part I with something maybe more familiar to all of us. Music on the brain, imagery and imagination.
Ah, like earworms. Songs stuck in your head.
That's part of it, yeah. But it goes deeper. The core idea is that music doesn't actually need external sound to exist for us. It lives vividly inside our heads.
You mean just imagining music?
More than imagining. Sachs talks about people who can hear, truly hear, entire symphonies in their mind. Full orchestration, dynamics, the works, all without a single sound wave hitting their ears.
How does that work?
He suggests our brains have these deeply ingrained networks for both perceiving and generating music. So these internal performances are incredibly active. Brain scans show similar activity whether you're listening externally or internally.
So that song stuck in your head.
Yeah.
It's basically your brain giving itself a concert.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Your musical mind's eye, or ear, is incredibly active. The brain is making music even in total silence.
So what's the takeaway for us there?
Well, think about mental rehearsal. Athletes use visualization all the time, right?
Yeah.
Sachs's work implies that silent practice for musicians mentally playing through a piece, imagining the notes, the fingering, actually activates those same musical pathways in the brain. It's a genuinely powerful tool for learning and creativity.
So practice doesn't always have to be noisy.
Apparently not. Your brain can do a lot of the work silently.
Fascinating. Okay, so that covers the sort of involuntary internal music experiences. Where does Musicophilia go next?
Part 2 shifts focus. It looks at the huge range, the whole spectrum of musical abilities and how we perceive music differently.
Okay, the differences between people.
Exactly. He starts with a chapter called Sense and Sensibility, a range of musicality. It basically lays out that spectrum from amazing musical prodigies at one end.
To people who, say they can't carry a tune in a bucket.
Right, people who struggle even with simple melodies. Sachs makes this really important point. Musical talent isn't just on or off.
It's a continuum.
It's a vast, complex spectrum, reflecting all sorts of differences in our neural wiring. But crucially, he argues that the capacity for musical enjoyment, for connection through music, that's almost universal. It's built into us.
So you don't need to be a virtuoso to get something profound out of music.
Absolutely not. The joy doesn't require technical perfection. And Sachs would say, don't let feeling unmusical stop you from engaging.
Like, don't be intimidated.
Yeah. Any engagement is like exercise for your brain's music circuits. Even using apps designed to help with pitch or rhythm, like Tone Gym, can actually help you tap into and improve those abilities wherever you start.
That's encouraging. But what about the other end? People for whom music just doesn't work.
Ah, right. He contrasts that wide range with conditions where music genuinely doesn't register properly. That's in the chapter Things Fall Apart. Amusia and disharmonia.
Amusia, is that the clinical term for tone deafness?
It's related, but often more profound. Sachs describes people with amusia whose brains literally can't process core musical elements, pitch, melody, harmony, rhythm.
So what does music sound like to them?
Often just noise, like banging pots and pans or clashing sounds with no structure. A symphony might just be an unpleasant cacophony.
Wow. That really highlights how much complex processing our brains usually do without us even noticing.
Totally. And how fragile that perception can be if certain circuits are off. Sachs emphasizes that for educators or therapists working with someone with amusia, knowing it's neurological is crucial.
Right. It's not that they're not trying or not interested.
Exactly. It changes the whole approach. Maybe you focus on rhythm, which might still be accessible, or the emotional intent rather than the melody. For the rest of us, it's a stark reminder of how subjective perception is.
Definitely gives you appreciation for your own hearing. Okay, what else is in this section on musical range?
Then he gets into something really specific and quite rare. Absolute pitch. The chapter title is great. Papa blows his nose in G.
Huh. Absolute pitch or perfect pitch, right? Naming any note instantly.
That's the one. Sachs talks about people, often young kids or some musicians, who just know a note the moment they hear it. C sharp, F flat, whatever. Effortless identification.
Is that a learned skill or something you're born with?
It seems to be linked to unique wiring, probably in the auditory cortex, maybe
Mhm.
solidified very early in life. Sachs notes it's much more common if you have musical training from a very young age.
So it's like a musical superpower.
Kind of. But Sachs also points out the quirks. People with absolute pitch can get really bothered by slightly out-of-tune instruments. It's physically uncomfortable for them sometimes.
I can imagine. So if you missed that early window, can you still develop it?
True absolute pitch is tough to acquire later in life, Sachs suggests. But relative pitch, knowing the relationship between notes, that's definitely trainable for adults.
Ah, okay. Like hearing intervals.
Exactly. And there are tools and apps like Functional Ear Trainer that help develop that. So the brain's musical learning capacity definitely doesn't disappear.
Good to know. What's next in part 2?
He moves on to something really profound and universal. The connection between time, memory, and music.
Ah, yes. That feeling of a song taking you back.
Precisely. Sachs explores this deeply, especially in the context of neurological conditions like Alzheimer's.
Oh, so?
He shows how even when someone's memory is severely impaired, they don't recognize family, they've lost track of their own life story. Familiar music can often cut through.
They still respond to it.
Often, yes. They might remember the lyrics, start singing along, even become more lucid and connected for a while. Sachs suggests music taps into different, maybe more primitive or emotionally rooted memory pathways that are less affected by the disease.
So music is like a key unlocking doors that other things can't.
That's a great way to put it. It's like memory's secret password. Incredibly resilient. It really shows why a song can feel like a time machine.
Yeah. What's the practical takeaway there?
Sachs' work strongly suggests creating life playlists for yourself or for loved ones as they age. Document the songs tied to important memories.
Like a soundtrack to your life.
Exactly. It could be an incredible gift, later on a tool for preserving identity and connection through sound.
That's really powerful. Okay, one more chapter in this part.
Yes, the last one, and part 2 is in living stereo, why we have 2 ears.
Okay. Seems obvious, but I guess there's more to it.
Oh yeah. Sachs explains it's not just about hearing more. It's about hearing in 3D. It's about location.
How our brain figures out where sounds are coming from.
Exactly. Our brain analyzes the tiny differences in when a sound arrives at each ear and how loud it is in each ear. This binaural processing creates our sense of auditory space.
Which is pretty crucial for, not getting run over or finding where someone's calling from.
Absolutely. It's a survival tool, a social tool, essential for navigating the world. Sachs calls it nature's stereo system, this amazing bit of neural engineering we just take for granted.
So how can we appreciate that more?
Well, for anyone interested in sound audiophiles, musicians, engineers, Sachs insights really encourage exploring things like binaural recordings.
Those recordings that sound super realistic on headphones.
Yeah, they mimic how our ears actually capture sound. Or mixing music for 3D audio. It's about consciously engaging with and recreating that natural spatial magic our brain performs constantly.
Cool. Okay, so that's the range of musicality. What's in part 3?
Part 3 is where Sachs really dives into music's impact on the body, on movement, and other cognitive functions like speech. It's music as a key to unlocking physical action.
Right, going beyond just listening.
Exactly. He starts with keeping time, rhythm, and movement. This explores that fundamental link between rhythm and how our bodies move.
Like tapping your foot to a beat.
That's the basic idea, but Sachs takes it much further. He gives these incredible examples of Parkinson's patients.
Okay.
People who might normally struggle to walk, they're maybe very rigid or have trouble initiating movement.
Yeah, that's characteristic of Parkinson's.
But when you play music with a strong, steady beat, or even just use a metronome, suddenly they can walk much more fluidly. Some can even dance.
Wow. How does rhythm do that?
Sachs theorizes that rhythm kind of bypasses the damaged motor pathways, particularly in the basal ganglia. It engages deeper, maybe more automatic, brain circuits related to timing and coordination.
So the beat gives the brain an external signal to lock onto.
That seems to be the idea. It shows just how fundamentally rhythm is tied to our motor systems. When you tap your foot, it's not just you deciding to, it's your neurons physically responding to that rhythmic input.
So there are therapeutic implications there.
Definitely. Sachs's work supports things like rhythmic training, using drumming, dance, or specific techniques like rhythmic auditory stimulation, RAS, to improve gait, balance, and motor skills.
So using rhythm intentionally to help movement?
Precisely. And even just for everyday wellness, consciously using rhythmic music during exercise or daily tasks can help keep brain and body synchronized.
Makes sense. What's next after rhythm and movement?
Chapter 11 is really fascinating. Speech and song, aphasia and music therapy. This looks at how music can help people recover speech, especially after a stroke.
Aphasia, that's trouble with language, right?
Yes, often caused by damage to the left hemisphere of the brain where language centers typically are. People with aphasia might struggle to find words or form sentences.
Okay. How does music help?
Here's the amazing part Sachs highlights. Often, these individuals who cannot speak the words, they can sing them.
They can sing words they can't say.
Often, yes. This led to the development of melodic intonation therapy, or MIT. The idea is that the musical aspects of language, pitch, rhythm, melody, are often processed more in the right hemisphere.
Which might be undamaged after the stroke.
Exactly. So by using singing, MIT essentially provides an alternate route for language. It coaches the brain to use these intact musical pathways to help retrieve and produce words.
That's incredible. It's like music finds a detour around the damage.
That's a perfect way to describe it. It's invaluable information for therapists and caregivers, obviously, but there's also a takeaway for anyone who communicates or creates.
Which is?
Melody is a powerful memory aid, a mnemonic device. Think about how easily you remember song lyrics compared to, say, a paragraph from a book. Putting information into a melodic structure helps embed it in memory much more effectively.
Good tip for learning things. Okay, so speech and song. What else in part 3?
Chapter 12 revisits Parkinson's, but focuses more broadly on music unlocking movement, calling these patients accidental dancers.
Accidental dancers?
So yeah, it builds on the rhythm idea. Sachs shares these really moving stories of patients who are typically quite rigid, maybe even frozen by their Parkinson's. But the moment music starts playing, particularly music they know and love, their bodies just seem to respond. They become fluid, graceful, able to move and dance with a freedom they don't normally have.
So it's more than just the beat, it's the music itself.
It seems so. Sachs suggests the music provides this holistic, prompt, rhythmic, emotional, maybe tapping into old motor memories that allows the brain to access smoother movement patterns. It's like the body remembers how to move, even if the conscious command struggles.
The body remembers what the mind forgets when music plays. Something like that.
Beautifully put, yeah. It's a strong case for integrating music deeply into physical therapy for motor conditions. And for all of us, really, Sachs encourages pairing movement with music regularly.
Like consciously choosing music for workouts or even chores?
Exactly. To maintain mobility, boost mood, and just keep that mind-body connection strong.
Okay. And the last chapter in this section.
The last one in part 3 is chapter 13, Phantom Fingers, the case of musical hallucinations.
Phantom fingers? That sounds odd. Is it related to phantom limbs?
Sort of conceptually. It's about people hearing music that isn't actually playing externally. Musical hallucinations.
Ah, okay. So hearing phantom music. Who experiences this?
Sachs notes it's particularly common in people who have experienced hearing loss, especially later in life.
So as their external hearing fades, their brain starts making up music.
That's the idea Sachs explores. These aren't just vague tunes. People report hearing full, complex pieces, sometimes symphonies or hymns, very vividly. It's not like imagining music. It feels entirely real to them.
Why would the brain do that?
Sachs posits it's the brain compensating. When auditory input from the outside world decreases, the brain, being this incredibly active organ, doesn't like silence. It might start generating its own complex auditory signals to fill the void.
The brain refuses silence.
Wow. Yeah. It essentially creates its own internal soundtrack. Sachs suggests that maybe maintaining regular, varied auditory stimulation could help prevent or lessen these hallucinations, keeping the brain's external pathways engaged.
And for creativity.
Well, it's a pretty powerful reminder of the mind's sheer generative power, isn't it? The brain's ability to construct rich, detailed sensory experiences from within. It highlights that innate drive to create sound and structure, even from silence.
Definitely food for thought. Okay, so that takes us through part 3. What's the final section about?
The final part, part 4, brings it all home. It explores music's connection to our deepest selves, our emotions, our personality, our identity.
Getting really personal now.
Exactly. Chapter 14 is called Irrepressible, Music and Tourette's Syndrome.
Tourette's. How does music connect there?
Sachs found it's remarkably effective in reducing Tourette's for many people with Tourette's.
Really? How?
When individuals with Tourette's are deeply engaged in playing music, especially complex pieces that require intense focus, their motor and vocal tics often diminish dramatically, sometimes disappearing completely for that period.
Why would playing music stop the tics?
Sachs suggests a few things. The intense focus required engages the prefrontal cortex, the brain's executive control center. The rhythm and structure provide a kind of external organization. It's like the focused musical activity provides a competing, more structured neural pathway that overrides or suppresses the involuntary impulses causing the tics.
So music acts like a regulator.
Yeah, like an internal metronome that helps steady the whole system. It suggests music can be a powerful tool for self-regulation, not just for tics, but maybe for anxiety, restlessness, even ADHD.
So finding a musical or rhythmic ritual could be calming.
Sachs certainly implies that. Establishing some kind of creative practice involving rhythm or focused listening could help tune the mind and body into a more stable state.
Interesting. What's next in this final part?
Chapter 15 gets into the brains of musicians themselves. Athletes of the small muscles, musicians and their brains.
Athletes of the small muscles. I like that. So how are musicians' brains different?
Sachs details how years of intense practice literally reshape the brain. He talks about MRI studies showing physical changes.
Like what kind of changes?
Increased gray matter, more neurons and connections in areas crucial for music. The auditory cortex for processing sound, motor cortices for controlling fine movements, like fingers on a piano or a violin.
So practice physically builds up those brain areas.
Exactly. And also the corpus callosum, that bridge connecting the left and right hemispheres, is often larger and more robust in musicians.
Meaning a better communication between brain halves.
Faster, more efficient communication, which is crucial for coordinating everything involved in playing music. It's pure neuroplasticity in action, the brain physically changing in response to experience and practice.
That's amazing. Does it only happen if you start young?
That's the really inspiring part. Sachs emphasizes no. Neuroplasticity continues throughout life. Learning an instrument, even as an adult or senior, can still induce these positive brain changes, boosting cognitive function.
So it's genuinely never too late to learn.
It's never too late to physically reshape your brain with music. That's a powerful message.
Absolutely.
Okay, moving on.
Chapter 16 looks at an auditory world, music and blindness. It explores how music often takes on an even more central role for those who are blind.
In what way? Enhancing other senses.
Yes, particularly hearing. Sachs highlights blind musicians, like the pianist Nobuyuki Tsuchi, who navigate and understand the world through sound in incredibly sophisticated ways. Their spatial awareness, derived from sound, can be extraordinary.
So the brain reorganizes.
Exactly. It's called cross-modal plasticity. When one sense is lost, the brain often repurposes cortical areas associated with that sense to enhance the remaining ones. For many blind individuals, the auditory cortex becomes highly developed.
And music becomes more than just sound. It can become a way of perceiving space, texture, environment. It's deeply integrated into their model of the world.
What can we learn from that?
Sachs implicitly encourages us to train our own listening more actively. Try doing a sound walk.
A sound walk.
Just walk somewhere, maybe somewhere familiar, but focus entirely on the sounds. Where are they coming from? What's their quality, their direction? It sharpens your auditory attention, makes you appreciate the richness of the soundscape our brain constantly processes.
Kind of like exercising your auditory cortex.
Precisely. Okay, almost there. The last two chapters really focus on music, memory, and identity, particularly in the context of dementia.
Right. You mentioned Alzheimer's earlier.
Yes, chapter 17 is the case of Harry S. Music and Alzheimer's. It's one of the most poignant parts of the book.
Tell me about Harry S.
Harry was profoundly affected by late-stage Alzheimer's. Very little memory, difficulty communicating, often seemed lost. But Sachs describes how, when they played him songs he had loved earlier in his life, particularly jazz or swing, he would light up. His eyes would focus, he'd start to sing along, sometimes even talk quite coherently for brief periods. It was like the music reconnected him to himself.
Wow. Just through hearing a song.
Yeah. Sachs uses this to reinforce that idea of musical memory being incredibly robust, perhaps stored in those deeper, more emotional, subcortical parts of the brain that dementia affects much later. Music was the last light still on for Harry.
That makes the idea of those life playlists even more vital, doesn't it?
Absolutely. It's a concrete way families can use music as a tool for connection, for identity preservation, even when communication seems almost impossible. It's an incredible gift.
Truly. And the final chapter.
The final chapter, 18, Music and Identity. Dementia and music therapy broadens that theme. It confirms how music therapy can actively help dementia patients reconnect with who they are.
So it's not just passive listening.
No, active engagement listening, singing, maybe playing simple instruments can help retrieve fragments of personality, spark memories, improve mood, and reduce agitation.
How does Sachs explain that link between music and identity?
He suggests that music isn't just abstract sound. It's encoded with personal history, emotions, experiences. A familiar song becomes like a condensed autobiography.
An autobiography in disguise.
Exactly. It accesses our personal narrative in a way that often bypasses the cognitive decline. Engaging with that music helps patients touch base with their sense of self.
It really pushes for music therapy in elder care, then.
Absolutely. But Sachs also subtly encourages us all, right now, to think about our own relationship with music and identity
How so?
by consciously curating our own soundtrack of self. Pay attention to the songs that mark important times, that resonate deeply. It's a way of understanding and preserving our own story as we live it.
That's a lovely thought. So after going through all these incredible stories and insights, what's the big takeaway from Sachs? What's his message to us, the listeners?
I think the core message, especially for anyone who loves music but maybe feels intimidated, like they're not good enough to play or sing,
Yeah.
Sachs is implicitly saying, music is fundamental to being human. It's not just for the professionals. You don't need to be a virtuoso for it to profoundly affect you, or for you to use it to connect with others.
So stop waiting for permission to engage.
Exactly. Don't wait. Sachs's work shows the brain doesn't care if you hit every note perfectly. Even just listening actively, mindfully, is powerful brain training. It's exercise for your emotions and cognition.
And the healing aspect.
Let music be your medicine. That comes through so strongly. You don't need an audience. Playing an instrument just for yourself, singing in the shower, listening deeply, Sachs shows how his patients found healing and reconnected with life simply by engaging with music, not by aiming for perfection.
Right. The engagement itself is the key.
And follow your personal connection. If one song just grabs you, follow that feeling. Learn it, sing it, figure out why it moves you. The brain responds to that genuine connection, that emotional resonance, far more than technical skill.
Because the brain itself is musical.
Right back to that idea. Even in silence, the brain makes music, as Sachs put it. Your mind is already a musical place, so use that. Use visualization, imagine melodies, mentally practice. It lights up the same pathways. Your brain is your best instrument.
So Sachs is really giving us all an invitation.
Totally. He's saying be curious, be playful. Don't worry about skill level. If music does something to you or for you, pay attention. That's your brain telling you this matters. Follow it.
Wherever it leads.
Wherever, however, with whatever you've got. Explore your own musicophilia.
Fantastic. Okay, so let's quickly recap the big 5 takeaways from our deep dive into musicophilia.
Right. First, music literally changes the brain. Accidents, illness, practice, it shows incredible plasticity.
Second, neurological conditions show us music's deep ties to memory, movement, identity, often the last bastion when other things fade.
Third, everyone's musical. It's a universal spectrum, deeply personal, not just about talent.
Fourth, music therapy is powerful. It unlocks real healing for Parkinson's, dementia, aphasia, and more.
And fifth, our brains are inherently musical. They actively create soundscapes, even in silence. They are music.
And maybe that final thought from Sachs ties it all together.
Yeah, you don't need to be Mozart to matter. Every note you hum is your brain remembering you're alive. So play, listen, sing not to be perfect, but to stay beautifully human.
Beautiful. So the question for you, listening now, is what song keeps your neurons dancing even when the world goes quiet? What's on your soundtrack of self?